Yes, I mean, first of all, we're making sure that Gibraltarians have a vote in the referendum. I took the view, and more importantly, the Prime Minister did, that this was only fair. Gibraltar is in the EU for most intents and purposes and should have a vote in the UK's decision. And the Prime Minister's objective is that we will get reforms that enable him to lead an enthusiastic campaign for Britain and Gibraltar to stay in the European Union. That's the best answer for Europe as well as for the UK and for Gibraltar. Europe desperately needs to become more competitive, more dynamic, but also more democratic and accountable than it is today.
And how exactly will Gibraltar and the UK work together towards this, especially considering, I suppose, the different circumstances, the different situations and different reasons for either of them, while similar, to remain in the EU?
I mean, the key thing is that there should be regular contact between the government of Gibraltar and the UK government. I had a chat with Fabian Picardo about this last week in Manchester, listened very carefully to what he had to say about the EU negotiations, and I've instructed my officials to maintain those close contacts as we take the negotiations forward. I'm sure I'll have many opportunities to talk to the Chief Minister about it personally as well.
Coming over to the issue of Gibraltar's current situation, obviously you've highlighted the work done by, for example, the Royal Navy Gibraltar Squadron, RGP, GDP and so on, in what you've termed difficult circumstances. You've described this before as not, these incursions as not being a real threat to Gibraltar's security, but is it not the case that Gibraltar's law enforcement personnel and also civilians are, sometimes the security is threatened by these?
Well, there's no threat to British sovereignty over Gibraltar or the waters from the incursions. I mean, they are a challenge, but they do not undermine the legal basis of British sovereignty over those waters. What we have seen in recent months are some incursions where the Spanish commanders, quite frankly, have engaged in reckless and dangerous manoeuvring that has put people's safety at risk. I mean, Spanish as well as Gibraltarian personnel have been put at risk. And I've delivered a very clear message directly to the new Spanish Europe Minister that this is simply unacceptable. Now, we had an assurance from the Spanish government after one recent incident that safety would be the prime concern for them. But this is a message that we continue to deliver, not just at political level, but at operational level to Spanish opposite numbers too. It's not in anybody's interests for there to be a situation in which people's well-being or even lives are put at risk in this way. That has to stop.
You recently wrote to your Spanish counterpart on that note, describing a recent incursion, or reiterating that it was unacceptable. What response have you had for him?
Well, I've not yet had a direct response to the letter, but the Spanish government has said openly that they will make safety at sea their prime concern. That is something I very much welcome. But the proof of the pudding will be what actually happens in practice.
You've pledged the UK's continued support of the new governor, obviously that Gibraltar will be having soon. The previous governor has called for a more robust action from the UK in terms of incursions. Is this something that we're likely to see? Is it something that you feel the current action is enough?
Well, we always look at the situation on the waters. We take advice from the governor and Commander of British Forces about the act that's most appropriate, and certainly my colleagues at the Ministry of Defence always keep under review those naval assets, personnel that we have in Gibraltar, and what the rules of engagement governing their action should be.
Fabian Picardo has also stressed the importance of the trilateral forum for dialogue, something you two have supported. So what's your response to the Spanish UN delegates' call on Friday for Spain's ally Britain to negotiate bilaterally with on the question of Gibraltar?
In one sense, no surprise. In another sense, disappointing. Spain knows that we're not going to take part in bilateral negotiations. There's been an invitation to Spain to take part in ad hoc talks also involving Gibraltar for a couple of years now, where one could actually talk about the operational issues to do with neighbours living alongside one another. But the trilateral would be the best way in which to deal with these things. It's a matter of deep regret to me that the Spanish government rejected that and refused to participate in the trilateral. I still hope that Spain will change its mind.
And finally, in terms of Gibraltar Day itself, how much do you feel that events like this, I suppose, help to raise awareness, and how much awareness do you feel that there is and support for Gibraltar in the UK at large?
Oh, I think there's this huge support for Gibraltar. Most people in the UK, even if they don't think about Gibraltar for most of their waking lives, they're aware of the shared history of Gibraltar and Britain, and they are true to the principle of democracy. People know that Gibraltar has voted more than once, freely and overwhelmingly, to remain British, and the British people stick by that.